A violent robbery in North York. York Regional Police releasing video showing the driver of a vehicle boxed in, assaulted by 3 people, and robbed of a suitcase containing cash. Good afternoon. A warning about the video you're about to see. Some viewers may find it disturbing. Police are searching for 3 suspects following a shocking and brazen theft in Thornhill Tuesday.
The victim was assaulted. Let's get now to CTV Sean Lathong for what we know so far about potential injuries and these suspects, Sean.
Well, Michelle and Nathan, I'm standing on Meadowview Avenue just east of Yonge Street in Thornhill, and right behind me is the driveway where this assault and robbery took place. As you mentioned, it was just after 5 o'clock on Tuesday. York Regional Police releasing the video. Now, we do have video of this assault. There you can see there is a gray SUV that's boxed in by a white Lexus SUV and another white sedan. We know that 3 suspects got out of those vehicles and began going towards the driver's side door and eventually pulling the driver of the gray SUV out. Once that happened, an assault was taking place. York Regional Police telling us there were no weapons used, but obviously there was a situation where the person driving the car was outnumbered. While the person driving the car is outside the vehicle, somebody goes inside the driver's seat and pulls out a black suitcase, looked like some carry-on luggage style suitcase, and what we were told is that suitcase did have cash inside. How much cash? York Regional Police says it is not their policy to tell us, but you can see that this was, in their words, a targeted event. It looks as though that the suspects were waiting for this car and then to box it in. To give you a little bit more context, this driveway that I'm standing in front of, it actually backs in towards an area of shops in a small plaza that faces Yonge Street not far from here. So it is possible that the car did come from one of those shops, though York Police is not specifying who the victim is. Now, beyond the 3 suspects who actually got out of those cars, there is believed to have also been 2 drivers of each car that did not actually get out of their cars. So they're searching for as many as 5 suspects. The description of those who got out of the car, they're wearing entirely dark clothing. They said they were speaking with Arabic accents, but beyond that, it's not much is known. Here's York Regional Police on the brazenness of this crime.
When we first saw the video, we were all very shocked to see how it all happened. The fact that the suspects did block the vehicle in, again, broad daylight, busy area, cars going by, people going by, and to confront the victim in his vehicle like that. It's just, we haven't seen something like this in a long time, and so we are quite concerned that this is happening in our community.
Now, there is a condo area behind me. There's a tall condo building. That is where the film could have come from, because police are saying that it is not security footage and that they were provided this video. They're also asking any other members of the public who may have been around the area a little bit after 5 o'clock on Tuesday, who may have any dash cam footage or anything else of the white SUV and the white sedan that did drive away after this assault. Reporting live, I'm Sean Lathong. Nathan, Michelle, send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. Peel police are investigating after a person was found dead in a home in Brampton last night.
Police originally responded to a call for medical help. CTV's John Musselman is live in Brampton with the details. John.
Well, Nathan, it happened inside the home behind me. Peel investigators are going into the house just as we speak to gather more information in connection with this case.
Police were called to this Brampton home just after 5:30 yesterday evening. It's located on Lord Simcoe Drive. That's near Dixie Road and Williams Parkway.
Oh, we just happened to see all the lights on. We looked out and we saw them take the one person out in handcuffs. And then instead of putting them into a police car, they put them into the ambulance.
It's worrisome, and there's been problems at the house before. Not that I can give you specifics, but there's just been trouble in the neighborhood with that home before with other people.
I've lived here pretty much all my life in Bramley, and society's changed. Total.
Very scary. Very scary. You just don't think something like that could happen in your neighborhood. I keep my doors locked tight, and I don't usually look out the front window before I open the door.
Person was found dead inside. Neighbors tell CTV News a man was led out of the home in handcuffs. Neighbors also say a man and his grown son live in the home together. Police have not confirmed any arrests. They have also not released the name, age, or gender of the victim. Investigators have been canvassing the neighborhood for any information in connection with this case.
And we're hoping to get more information this afternoon as Peel Regional Police continue this investigation. Reporting live in Brampton, I'm John Musselman, and I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. Toronto police have identified a suspect accused of stabbing multiple people after a confrontation in the city's West End. Around 1 a.m. back on September 24th, they say the suspect got into an argument with a group of people near Bloor and Christie. He then allegedly stabbed several victims, leaving a 24-year-old man with life-threatening injuries and a 22-year-old man hurt. They've now identified the suspect as 27-year-old Tony Lynn of Toronto. He's wanted on charges of aggravated assault and assault with a weapon. Anyone with information is asked to contact police or Crime Stoppers.
Meanwhile, we're learning more about a collision yesterday in Scarborough that left a pedestrian seriously hurt. Police say a school bus was traveling east on Kingston Road and turning left onto Kingswood Road when it struck a 22-year-old woman while she was in the crosswalk. She was rushed to hospital with life-threatening injuries. The driver remained on scene. Investigators are asking residents, businesses, and drivers who may have security or dash cam footage of the area or incident to get in touch.
Still to come, the after effects of Hurricane Milton, assessing the damage and the path of destruction across Florida. We'll have the latest on the damage and the cleanup efforts just ahead.
But first, a look at the forecast here. A nice looking sunny afternoon, but you still might want to put on a jacket or a sweater if you're heading outside. A little bit cool. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Jess.
We're really seeing that seasonal shift settle in as we head throughout the end of our week. A lot more sunshine out there, but we're still seeing that northwesterly or northerly wind throughout the majority of our day ahead. So it's going to feel cooler out there, but we're just kind of finally settling into where we should be for this time of year. Right now, we're kind of sitting in the single digits with the exception of Hamilton, London, and areas a little bit further into that southwestern corner. But it is a noticeably cooler start to the day. If you have temperature sensitive plans, even without the frost advisories into the evenings, probably a good idea to cover them. Now, as we make our way throughout the afternoon, we will warm up a little bit and we'll end off pretty seasonal as we head throughout the day. And then we get a bit of a surge with some warmth into the day tomorrow before things change again. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long range forecast as we step in towards the long weekend. But right now, I'll send it back over to Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you, Jess. It's an issue that's top of mind for homeowners in the city, fixing the vacant home tax.
After last year's debacle, it's an item back on the agenda at Toronto City Council. Our Natalie Johnson has the latest details. Natalie.
Well, Michelle, the question before council here in the chamber today is how to fix the vacant home tax, which, as you'll remember, caused so much stress to so many residents last spring when more than 150,000 Torontonians were mailed bills for money that they didn't actually owe. Well, fast forward to the fall, and city staff have now redesigned the tax. Council being asked to okay those changes here today. Some of those changes include a communications blitz to alert residents that they do need to declare occupancy of their homes. Under the revised model, they would be able to make that declaration both online and over the phone, and the deadline would be extended. But it does still require residents to reach out to the city and indicate that they do live in their own homes, which critics have called a reverse onus and a fundamental flaw of the program. As a result, there is still a push among some members of council to axe this tax altogether.
This administration is very keen to increase fees and taxes. I don't think that's the right direction right now. We should be focusing on more supply solutions, removing red tape to creating more housing opportunities here in the city of Toronto. But right now, she's focused on taxing existing housing.
There are 10,000 empty homes in the city of Toronto. 10,000, usually owned by investors, that sit there empty. Meanwhile, we've got people sleeping on the streets, people desperate for a place to live. And so we've got to do something to get these people to either rent these homes out, sell them to someone else that'll live in them. So I'm saying it's not a perfect thing to do, but we've got to do something.
And so the policy goal of this tax is to discourage speculators from letting homes sit empty during a housing crisis. The question for some councillors is whether it is worth the administrative effort and cost to organize and maintain. That is a debate that will unfold later this afternoon here in the council chamber. We'll bring you the latest tonight at 6. Reporting live, I'm Natalie Johnson. Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, Natalie. Also at a City Hall, council has voted to extend the lease for Billy Bishop Airport as part of a project to lengthen the runway.
It's a 12-year extension from the end of the tripartite agreement, and 20 years from what we understand is Ports Toronto's timeline to start construction, which is 2025.
I tried to have council take a position today that would say we support the long-term existence of this airport and the enabling factors that would allow us to do that, which of course is a long-term extension to the lease and a renegotiation of the tripartite agreement. And you saw an amendment brought forward by the mayor's handpicked deputy mayor that punts it to after the next election.
The runway at the Island Airport needs to be extended to meet federal safety requirements. Ports Toronto wanted to extend its current lease of the airport by 40 years to allow for a longer window to finance the project. The current lease is set to expire in the year 2033, and council voted yesterday to extend it by 12 years to the year 2045.
The mayor and Ontario's Minister of Transportation got a first-hand look at construction on the Gardiner last night. Mayor Olivia Chow and Transportation Minister Prabmeet Sarkaria visited workers at Saskatchewan's Road and Princes Boulevard. They surveyed crews who are working overnight on the Gardiner.
What you have seen behind me is this incredible team, almost 100 people working around the clock. Today it's past 10 p.m. We're pouring concrete, and this is really about making sure we're doing everything we can to speed up this project.
This project, as of now, is 4 months ahead of schedule. That is worthy of celebration. That is due to the hard work of the workers here, both at the Barrie site where they are pouring the concrete and the people that are now doing the construction. We are ahead of schedule. That is just exciting.
Portions of the Gardiner will see lane reductions until mid-2027. The city plans to fully reopen the expressway in 2026 to accommodate traffic for the FIFA World Cup. Toronto City Councillor Michael Thompson's sexual assault trial continues today in Bracebridge. He arrived at the courthouse this morning. Thompson is accused of sexually assaulting 2 women at a Muskoka cottage in the summer of 2022. On Monday, the Crown alleged he arranged the getaway for several women as a networking event, but urged them to drink heavily and take off their clothes before sexually assaulting them. The 64-year-old has pleaded not guilty to the 2 charges.
Also today, Jacob Hogard abandoned a bid to appeal his 2022 sexual assault conviction before Canada's top court. The Supreme Court's website shows the former Headley frontman halted his application for leave to appeal on Friday. That's the same day Hogard was found not guilty of sexual assault in a separate and unrelated case in northeastern Ontario. Hogard started serving his 5-year sentence after the Court of Appeal for Ontario upheld his 2022 conviction in August. A new report indicates there is a growing mental health crisis among young people in Canada.
It comes as World Mental Health Day was marked in Toronto with a panel discussion at Toronto Metropolitan University.
I would say that there are 2 main reasons why Indigenous people struggle to get good mental health care in the Western system specifically. There is historical and current experience of systemic racism in accessing healthcare within this system that we currently are in. And I believe that this has been addressed by the Canadian Medical Association recently. They've acknowledged it and apologized for this, but that doesn't change that Indigenous youth in particular come with a different lived experience.
The study was conducted by Mental Health Research Canada and funded by Bell Let's Talk, an annual campaign by Bell Canada to raise awareness about mental health and break the stigma. Bell has also announced that $10 million will be put toward mental health programs in 2025, with an emphasis on youth.
This report provides a clear and compelling case for better community mental health supports and services, and includes solutions and a call to action to address declining youth mental health.
According to the report, youth are considered vulnerable, with between 66 and 75% of mental health issues having an onset before the age of 24. Bell Let's Talk Day will be held on January 22nd next year. CTV is a division of Bell.
To Florida, where Hurricane Milton cut a destructive path across the state, killing at least 4 people after making landfall last night. The Category 3 storm struck Siesta Key first, a town about 100 kilometers south of Tampa Bay. It destroyed homes in several areas of the state and caused heavy flooding. But there was not the catastrophic storm surge that was feared. Fortunately, emergency crews responded to dozens of calls for help as others spent the night clearing debris. The governor held a briefing this morning.
We had over 80,000 people that were into shelters overnight as the storm hit the state. We will better understand the extent of the damage as the day progresses. And you have people that are out there assessing damage right now. First responders have been working all through the night to help people who are in distress. And what we can say is the storm was significant, but thankfully this was not the worst case scenario.
More than 3 million homes and businesses were without power as of this morning. Milton weakened to a Category 1 hurricane as it crossed the state. It is moving away from Florida after lashing communities on the East Coast. For more on this, we're joined by CTV's Scott Hurst. Scott, it's still early hours to really get a sense of all the damage. Take us through what more we know at this point.
Michelle, you heard from the governor there, Ron DeSantis. Of course, not the worst case scenario, as the projected storm surge wasn't as high as initially feared, but that doesn't mean, as you're seeing from all the video from the state, that there hasn't been significant destruction and significant damage. It already caused the significant loss of life as well. And there have been hundreds of rescues throughout the night and now into today. And now it begins the assessment. And cameras were rolling when there was a rescue of one mother and her 4 children. They were trapped in their home when the water started coming over the window. Fortunately, a neighbor was able to drive close enough, shine their headlights on the window, and allowed them to walk to the car to get them to safety. And this mother had to make a call that no mother ever wants to make. And on the other end, too, it's a call that you don't ever want to receive. Here's what she had to say.
When it got up all the way up the window, it got up the window and it started coming in the house from the window, and the refrigerator started floating. I turned out the power. Me and my children hopped on the oven. And once we hopped on the oven, I called my mom and told my mom, I think me and my children are about to drown to death.
Oh, my God.
Absolutely terrifying, of course, for the woman to make that call, and of course for her mother on the other end to receive that. And her children in the home were 4, 5, 9, and 11 years old. So luckily that they were able to be rescued. But lots of homes have been damaged, businesses damaged, as well as this storm cut a disruptive path through the state. Ferocious wind and rain that also spawned a barrage of tornadoes as well. We saw that video yesterday as the storm was coming ashore, as you mentioned, Michelle, landed as a Category 3 and remained hurricane strength for its entire path across the state before exiting on the Atlantic side.
These are trying times for this state. Let's talk about what's ahead today. I'm sure there's a lot of work.
There is going to be many more rescues. You can count on that, as now rescue teams and first responders are fanning out across the state. We heard from a sheriff's deputy last night that some of their teams even had to cut through some trees and the downed power poles just to get to certain homes, get to certain communities. So there'll be a lot of assessment of the damage, a lot more rescues as well. We heard there were more than 3 million people without power, and we heard from the governor before the storm hit that there were already 50,000 utility workers ready to go, ready to be deployed. And so that will be a priority today, getting the electricity back to these communities, assessing the bridges as well, so that people can get back to their communities and can begin the process of picking up their lives, Michelle.
CTV Scott Hurst live for us in the CTV National Newsroom. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Palestinian medical officials say an Israeli strike on a school in central Gaza has killed at least 27 people. The school was sheltering people displaced by the war. The Israeli military says it targeted militants hiding in a school in the central city of Deir al-Balah. Witnesses say the strike hit a room normally used by Hamas-run police, but where school managers were meeting with an aid group. Israel launched a large-scale air and ground operation against Hamas in northern Gaza earlier this week.
Israeli airstrikes have killed 5 health workers in southern Lebanon, according to Lebanese authorities. CTV's Heather Wright is in Tel Aviv with more on the escalating conflict.
Well, the United Nations says 1 million people have now fled the war in Lebanon, which began about 10 days ago when Israel invaded the south, trying to stop Hezbollah, who has been firing rockets into Israel for the last year. Now, Global Affairs Canada says that they have helped just over 1,000 Canadians leave the country. They continue to encourage people to leave while commercial means are available. And really, the fighting is ramping up in the south. Israeli troops clashing with Hezbollah militants over the last several days. Hezbollah still firing off rockets into Israel. 2 people were killed in the north. A number were injured in Haifa. And Israel continues to target areas inside Beirut as well. Now, this all happening against the backdrop of a waiting game. The region really bracing to see how Israel is going to respond to Iran's missile barrage last week. U.S. President Joe Biden spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, their first conversation since August 21st. And while we don't know a whole lot about the substance of their call, we know that it was to discuss how Israel is going to respond. The U.S. making it very clear that they do not want Israel to target things like Iran's nuclear facilities. And just as that call was happening, a video was released by the Israeli defense minister in which he said that Israel's response will be deadly, precise, and surprising. And so when that response is going to happen is anyone's guess, but really the region bracing for what that might be and whether it is going to ratchet things up another notch in this growing regional conflict. Back to you.
Heather Wright reporting from Israel. In Ottawa, 2 high-profile politicians are appearing today at the inquiry into foreign interference. Marco Mendicino was the first to testify. This morning, the former public safety minister was asked about the flow of information regarding CSIS warrants.
I would receive both a copy of the warrant, which included the supporting affidavit, so that I could review the information and the intelligence to ensure that all of the legal requirements were met under the law, along with a covering note. And that covering note would be authored by my deputy minister or come under his or her signature, along with any other recommendations vis-a-vis the approval of the warrant.
Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly is also testifying today. The latest hearings are focusing on the ability of agencies to detect and counter foreign interference.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister addressed the ASEAN Canada Summit in Laos today as Canada seeks closer ties with countries in the region.
Trade between Canada and ASEAN has nearly doubled since I first became Prime Minister in 2015, and ASEAN is now Canada's 4th largest trading partner with almost $40 billion in trade annually. While I've been encouraged by our progress on a Canada-ASEAN free trade agreement, I remain highly focused on landing that deal in the coming year, a deal that will unlock billions of dollars in increased trade and countless community-building jobs that are the backbone of a strong middle class.
Federal officials say Canada is increasing its presence in the region to build credibility as a reliable economic partner. As part of a larger Western push for stronger ties with Southeast Asian countries, largely to reduce reliance on Chinese goods. Today, the PM announced Canada is upgrading its diplomatic mission in Laos and Phnom Penh to full embassies.
A northwesterly flow to the wind will keep it cooler today, but we're still sitting fairly seasonal before a change in wind direction and a warm-up comes just in time for our Friday to round out the work and school week before the long weekend. Today, though, a mix of sun and cloud, a really picturesque, very standard issued fall day. Sweater weather, some would say. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast as we look ahead to the long weekend and show you what you can expect, including the chance of some active weather. All those details after the break.
The sun is shining, and I think by this point in the week, we've learned that it's fresh to start the day. So I've noticed, folks, you've got the coats and, bundling up a bit more, at least to start the day.
Yeah, it's that adjustment that Jess was talking about. The season has definitely changed. Yeah. You can feel it a bit cooler, but at least we got the sunshine.
I was out early this morning, and I saw some winter coats, and no shame or no shade, because it was freezing. And I say freezing relative to the fact that it has been so warm to start off the fall season. But we're looking at 4 degrees, 5 degrees, 6 degrees to get the day started, and that is fresh. But we're going to see a bit of a warm up before the week is all said and done. Weather is brought to you by the Presser Law Firm. Injury lawyers, you don't pay unless they win. Beautiful start to the day, though. We saw some sunshine out there early on, but that daytime heating doesn't really start to take place now until much later into the afternoon. So even though the sun was up, it was still pretty cool out there. But a beautiful shot of the city, still very green. You know, we're still holding on to a lot of that summer type of greenery out there. The fall change hasn't taken place too much just yet, but you're seeing those trees start to make that shift, that transition, and so is the weather. We're holding on to a daytime high today that is pretty on par for where we should be, and then we'll see a pretty major shift into the day tomorrow, kind of a one-day special just for our Friday. Right now, they're sitting at 12 degrees here in the city, but it's a little warmer through some portions of northern Ontario. Thunder Bay, for example, at 16. They've got a little bit of a ridge. They're kind of on the top end of it. That's bringing some warmth to areas just south of the prairies. As we head into our afternoon, we're right on par for where we should be, sitting at 15 degrees, a northwesterly wind changing to northerly. So that's, again, where that coolness comes in if you're not in that direct sunlight, if you're spending time outside. But almost everybody really on the button, on the nose for where we should be this time of year. Into this evening, pretty similar, but it will be a little cooler in some areas a little further east. We're still kind of watching some frost advisories come and go over this time. But the one outlier today is Parry Sound. They'll be at 10 and they should be at 2. Heading throughout the day today, high pressure settles in and there's really not much to write home about. It's a beautiful day today and even more so into the day tomorrow. And then we'll step into our long weekend in a nice way before a bit of a trend rolls in with some active weather. For this afternoon, we're seeing a decent amount of sunshine out there, a mix of sun and cloud really right across southern Ontario, and a really light northerly wind. It's that textbook kind of fall day where you have just enough sunshine to stay warm and a bit of that cool breeze so you have that freshness out there. Heading into the evening, more of the same, and into our Friday, lots of sunshine to kick things off right through to the early afternoon. Then some light cloud cover rolls in. So if you're taking off a little early for the long weekend, it'll be super nice outside. Getting into our Friday evening, there's a slight chance of maybe a light passing shower, and then we step into the start of the weekend with lots of sunshine before we watch for some unsettled weather. So something to keep in mind if you do have outdoor plans, if you can focus them on the Saturday, probably a good idea. Again, today we're almost like right on par for the seasonal norms for the high and the low. Into the day tomorrow, we shoot all the way up to 22 degrees. A nice southwesterly wind will help warm things up. But we do have a fairly cool night, but again, it is seasonal at 6 degrees. Stepping into our Saturday, again, a very seasonal start to the long weekend. So if you do have outdoor plans when it comes to your Thanksgiving meal or just working outside or just enjoying your Saturday, it'll be beautiful. And then we head in towards Sunday and we watch for some unsettled weather. And this begins a little bit of a trend where we watch for the chance of rain through our Sunday right through to Tuesday. Not a wash of a day for all 3 days, but a good idea just to keep the rain gear handy. Temperature-wise, we kind of hold on around seasonal-ish as we head in towards Sunday, and then we begin a below-seasonal trend, just 9 degrees as we step in towards the beginning of next week. So we are in the fall season. We're holding on to some of that warmth into the day tomorrow, Michelle, but it will cool down pretty drastically. I'll send things back over to you guys.
We have been warned. Thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
Conservationists are worried prairie bird populations are disappearing and time is running out to save them.
Here's CTV's Alex Carper on what's at the root of this dramatic decline.
Grassland bird populations on the prairies are declining at a rapid rate, with a 67% drop since 1970. That's according to a new report that shows without urgent action, several species, including the chestnut-collared longspur and the burrowing owl, may be lost in Canada.
Grasslands are the most endangered habitat in Canada. So to see these declines in grassland birds that go along with all of the loss of grassland habitat that we've seen, yeah, unfortunately, not a surprise.
The report also highlights decreases of some other populations, like migratory birds and shorebirds.
This is an ongoing decline. It was noted in the 2019 State of the Birds report, and it's serious and it's urgent.
Much of the decline is due to habitat loss, which threatens birds across the country. The destruction of habitats are driven by agricultural practices, urban development, and infrastructure.
Birds need places to live, and a lot of these species have evolved to be very picky about where they live, what kind of food they eat, and the diversity of our intact native grasslands is irreplaceable.
Hogan says roughly 80% of Canada's prairie grasslands have disappeared, with around 600 square kilometers being lost every year. Conservationists say the report highlights where the problems are.
It's also showing us that when we do understand a problem well and we direct our action towards it and invest in it appropriately, that we can have a really amazing impact on grass or on bird conservation.
The report calls on the public and conservation officials to take several actions, including improving bird habitats, addressing the causes of climate change, and limiting the use of fossil fuels. Alex Karpa, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Coming up on CTV News, Brampton's William Osler Health System has formally apologized after a sick patient was shaved without consent. We'll have the update when we return. William Osler Health System is promising to do better going forward after a sick patient had his beard shaved over the summer without consent. The family of 85-year-old Joginder Singh Kalar says he was transferred to Brampton Civic Hospital in late August as he recovered from injuries from a fall. They say they told the hospital not to shave his beard, as doing so would violate the tenets of their faith, but he was found clean-shaven a few days later. After investigating, the hospital system now says it failed to uphold religious and cultural care practices in shaving Singh Kalar without consent or medical necessity.
William Osler's statement reads in part, "We take full responsibility for this incident and have extended our deepest apologies to the patient and his family." It goes on to say, "We remain fully committed to strengthening the trust of our communities by upholding the deeply held religious rights and dignity of all patients in every interaction."
The union representing Ontario healthcare workers is speaking out against a new regulation on long-term care staffing.
They're concerned about workers with less training being given permanent positions. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan has the details.
They were brought in during the pandemic, workers with less training but urgently needed to help at long-term care centres. But now the province wants to make so-called resident support workers a permanent part of the staffing.
We're calling today for this regulation to be removed, to be not enacted. We believe it's an attack on a workforce which is overwhelmingly female, highly racialized, and it has to be seen in that light. It's a move to depress wages in this sector, depress the skill levels, which will have a profound impact on the residents in these homes.
Pam Hayer, a long-term care PSW, says training is needed to care for these individuals.
It's not just the personal care. It's a PSW who's beside those residents when they're taking their last breath. It's a PSWs who's supporting those residents when they are emotionally low, when the families are busy with their own life.
The path this government is taking towards staffing in long-term care is the exact opposite path we need.
Dr. Vivian Stomatopoulos says she foresaw this move back in 2020.
The vast majority of long-term care residents not only have Alzheimer's and some form of dementia and an official dementia diagnosis, but most are on 10 or more medications. They have multiple comorbidities. There are many challenges and required and specialized training that is required to provide safe and dignified care in these facilities.
She fears lack of training will lead to unsafe conditions for residents and workers. But the Ministry for Long-Term Care says it is investing in training, saying the Ministry of Long-Term Care is currently funding programs to upskill existing staff, including resident support workers, to begin careers as personal support workers. This initiative is part of our broader $4.9 billion investment to support the hiring and training of thousands of new PSWs and nurses. Ontario has 626 long-term care homes. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Taylor Swift has joined the list of celebrities pledging money to help the recovery from the hurricanes that have devastated the U.S. Southeast. The CEO of nonprofit Feeding America revealed on Instagram that Swift had donated $5 million U.S., which will be used to provide food, water, and supplies for storm victims. In recent weeks, fellow music superstar Dolly Parton has pledged millions of dollars towards the communities hardest hit by Hurricane Helene. And a long list of country stars are planning a benefit concert for Carolina later this month.
In sports, the Maple Leafs started the regular season last night in Montreal.
Matheson with the pass, Doc down low in front, Caulfield scores!
Montreal found the back of the net in the first period. That would be all the scoring in the game as the Leafs are held off the score sheet in a 1-0 loss to open the season. The team will look for their first win today when they take on the New Jersey Devils. Puck drop is set for 7.
Raptors star Scotty Barnes is expected to make his preseason debut tomorrow. The club has confirmed Barnes will return to the lineup when Toronto takes on the Washington Wizards. It'll be his first game in more than 7 months. Barnes was limited to just 60 games last season after breaking his hand in March and missed the Raptors' first preseason game Sunday for personal reasons. The 23-year-old enters the 2024-25 campaign after signing a 5-year, $225 million contract extension.
One of the greatest tennis players of all time has announced his retirement. In a video message this morning on social media, Rafael Nadal says he's stepping away from the game in November after a final appearance for Spain at November's Davis Cup finals in Malaga. The 38-year-old is a 22-time Grand Slam champion, including a record 14 French Open titles. He won a total of 92 ATP-level singles titles and an Olympic gold medal in 2008. His 81 consecutive wins on clay are the longest single-surface win streak in the Open era.
And for the first time in the tennis tournament's history, there will be no line judge in uniform making calls from the sidelines at Wimbledon. Instead, the job will go to AI. Wimbledon has already begun testing it out, and the same technology has been adopted by the Australia and U.S. Opens.
Still to come, some consumers with high credit scores are being targeted by criminals. More on the latest scam after the break.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
We all know how important it is to protect our personal information because if you don't, you could be the victim of identity theft.
Now some criminals are stealing identities of people with good credit ratings so they can take out fraudulent loans in their name. CTV's Pat Foran has this consumer alert.
I feel devastated. Like, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Edward Mendonca of Toronto says he always tries to maintain a good credit rating, especially since he hopes to be a first-time home buyer and purchase a condo next year. That's why he was shocked when he got letters from a finance company saying he was late on 2 loan payments.
I have never opened an account with this financial institution.
Mendonca was told this past summer he took out 2 loans, one for more than $6,000 and the other for more than $12,000. He told the company even though the loans were in his name, he had no knowledge of them.
It's affecting my credit rating. I'm trying to get this resolved.
Equifax says some consumers with high credit scores are being targeted by criminals. Scammers use stolen personal information to steal your identity and then apply for loans and credit cards.
They're impersonating you and taking advantage of your solid credit history and applying for something in your name.
If you're the victim of identity fraud, report it to police and get a report number. Advise your bank and credit card companies. Contact Equifax and TransUnion. Submit a dispute for an investigation and place a fraud alert on your credit reports. You may not realize you're an identity theft victim until you check your credit rating or are contacted by a collections agency.
You can end up with new credit accounts existing in your name that you might not ever know about.
After CTV News reached out on Mendonca's behalf, the 2 loans were forgiven and his credit score was restored, which was great news for him.
Oh, it's a huge relief. Thank you guys so much for all your help. Thank you, CTV. Thank you, Pat, and your whole team over there.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
Air Canada's pilots have voted to ratify a new 4-year labor deal. The result puts an end to concerns about a potential strike. Pilots at the country's largest air carrier were set to walk off the job last month, but a tentative agreement was reached in time. It grants the airlines more than 5,200 pilots a combined wage hike of nearly 42% over 4 years. The Airline Pilots Association says the contract received 67% votes in favor. Air Canada said it welcomes the result.
A new report suggests TD Bank is due to face new restrictions and a multi-billion-dollar penalty south of the border over its handling of money laundering concerns. The Wall Street Journal says U.S. regulators are set to announce a settlement with TD sometime today. It would see the bank pay around $3 billion worth of penalties and impose a cap on its U.S. retail banking assets. Canada's second largest bank has faced a number of legal challenges and probes south of the border. TD Bank is expected to comment during a conference call today.
The Japanese parent company of 7-Eleven is planning a major overhaul to help fend off an unsolicited takeover offer from its Canadian rival. Alimentation Couche-Tard, which owns convenience store brand Circle K, has been floating buyout bids. Now, Bloomberg reports 7&I Holdings plans to split into two companies. One would focus on 7-Eleven itself and other profitable retail operations, while other business lines would be hived off into a separate company. Analysts say the move is an attempt to increase growth and appeal to investors who may be tempted by the potential for a buyout.
Ottawa has revealed new measures that change how lenders can offer mortgage refinancing to homeowners who want to build a secondary suite.
The government says it will make housing more affordable, but some believe it could have the opposite effect. CTV's Adrian Gabriel explains.
A made-in-Parliament proposal to propel housing across Canada.
This is all about gentle density, creating more homes for Canadians to live in.
The federal government say they want to open up more housing options and build more density. So for Canadians wanting to convert their garage into a laneway house like this one right here, or perhaps build a basement apartment, it will soon be easier to access the equity in your home to help foot the bill for the construction.
In a push to get building, the Liberals are issuing new guidance to lenders and insurers to offer mortgage refinancing, as long as the addition being built on a homeowner's property is a separate dwelling. Borrowers will be able to access financing of up to 90% of the home's value, receive a 30-year amortization with a limit of $2 million on insured mortgages.
One of the most pressing issues for Canada, for Canadians, is housing.
Though some mortgage experts believe the government's plan won't truly fix the housing shortage many communities are facing across the country.
This measure is going to lead to more people doing the same kind of house flipping.
Broker Ron Butler claims the plan, as drafted, will only drive prices higher.
Canada already has some of the highest house prices on planet Earth. If you give people more access to bigger amounts of money with government-backed loans, you are without a doubt going to increase house prices.
In addition to their plan, Ottawa is seeking feedback from provinces, territories, and municipalities on a vacant land tax. The thought being, by taxing undeveloped land, owners will be incentivized to build. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Toronto.
The TTC is preparing to permanently close one of its commuter parking lots so the land can be used for housing. This is happening in the area of Allen Road and Wilson Avenue, right by Wilson subway station on Line 1. The TTC says that station's main lot will be permanently closed as of November 18th. The 8-acre space will instead be redeveloped with plans for nearly 1,500 new housing units, as well as parkland, office, retail, and community spaces. The project is part of the city's Housing Now initiative, repurposing municipal land for housing purposes.
Coming up, firefighters in the city are taking part in a training course drawing on real-world dangers. Details after the break. Firefighters are called upon every day to head towards danger rather than away from it.
A special training course is underway here in the city, hoping to enhance the safety of those same first responders. So this is Revival Film Studios, where 30 career firefighters are taking part in a fire ground survival training program. It's a multi-day course. It's run by the Ontario Professional Firefighters Association, and it's based on lessons learned from real-life incidents and case studies while incorporating best practices in the event the unfortunate happens.
One of the things firefighters are very good at is looking after other people and putting themselves into buildings and places where other people will not go. But when they get in those buildings, they haven't always focused well on what if they get in trouble. So this type of program trains other people, other firefighters, to go back to their department and train the people from their department. So it's a train the trainer program.
The Firefighters Association aims to certify more than 100 fire ground survival instructors by April.
Firefighters, we appreciate you.
Oh, we sure do. Are we appreciating this weather forecast?
I think so. I mean, we've had such a great run of warmer weather. If you like a warm start to the fall season, I know some folks are just waiting for sweater weather, but we are looking at a very seasonal stretch ahead for the most part until we get in towards next week. But for today, beautiful outside. A light wind, a decent amount of sunshine, that perfect forecast if you do work outside or want to spend some time outdoors. Not much in the way of any real heavy cloud cover, and we're holding on to high pressure to round out the week as well. Right now, sitting at 12 degrees, still a little warmer out through Windsor, and we're going to sit very seasonal as we head in towards the day today. Tomorrow, different story. Again, if you like the warmer fall weather, we have that and then some as we head into our Friday. Around 22 degrees for the high, and then we return to a very seasonal forecast in the evening and to kick off the long weekend. But there is some rain on the way, but not so bad if you're going to spend some time inside, snacking, getting ready for Thanksgiving Monday. I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, thank you, Jess. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us here, have a wonderful afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6.
Snack.